Some stories don't begin with explosions or miracles. They begin with exhaustion, with a tired mind, a half-finished thought, and a question that refuses to let you go. This is a story about memory, about voices that history almost erased, and about what happens when the past decides it still has something to say. This is not a story about changing time. It's a story about listening to it.
Theo had been staring at the same sentence so long the letters bled together. Lineage in postmodern black poetics. He mouthed the words once more, flat and sour on his tongue. His coffee from the bodega on 121st set cold beside him, the surface gone slick and oily, but he drank anyway. The radiator groaned in protest, the pipes rattling like brass warming up before a set. Theo pressed a palm against the open book, willing the words to stay still. For a moment they held. Then the page trembled beneath his hand. He told himself it was fatigue. The air sharpened with coal smoke. Somewhere beyond the walls, a horn broke loose in the night. The lights went dark. And when he opened his eyes again, Harlem was different. The words swam, and the sidewalk cracked into cobblestones. Horse hooves clogged. Trumpets rang from a window above. A boy in suspenders sprinted past with a sack of newspapers. Theo looked down. His phone was gone. He closed his eyes again, slowly, and he was back in Harlem 2025. The coffee had spilled all over his notes. He told himself it was a stress-induced hallucination. 2 weeks later, when he touched the yellowed cover of Torchlight verse, it happened again. This time, the street lamps and car horns didn't dissolve into fluorescent light and radiator hiss. Theo Marshall had never planned to write about his great-granduncle. Elias Marshall was barely a footnote in most Harlem Renaissance anthologies. His one slim volume of poems, printed in 1925. Then nothing else. It had taken Theo 3 semesters and an irritable dissertation advisor to even find the book. But here he was, dozing over its fragile binding in Columbia's archive reading room, the heater rattling like a dying trombone, when the world folded neatly into itself. The cold vanished. Ink and coal hung heavy in the room, a bitter perfume. From outside drifted Harlem's chorus, boots striking pavement in syncopation, a horn laughing wild from a tenement window, a dice game punctuated by cheers, and far off, the steel tempo of the train threading it all together. Theo stood. The dusk under him was now a dark walnut, carved with initials. Outside the tall window, dusk spread over Harlem, street lamps flickering on his voices rose from the sidewalks. His hand dug into his sternum, waiting for the sharp bite of something fatal. The pulse was strong, stubbornly alive. But if he was right, and Theo Marshall put more faith in science than faith, he had time-traveled by accident. Again. Footsteps pounded the stairs, each one strong enough to rattle the doorframe. The door flew open hard, slamming against the wall. In the doorway stood Elias Marshall. Elias's suit sagged at the shoulders, the fabric gone shiny with wear. Ink clung to the creases of his fingers, and one sock had slouched low inside his stuffed shoe. The socks didn't match. His steps struck the floor with a restless energy that filled the room. Jervis lied, Elias muttered, slamming a folder onto the desk. He said he'd get it to lock. Said he'd help. All they want is another Langston, another Claude. I ain't the right color for them. Theo blinked. Elias spun on him. Who the hell are you? Me? Yeah, boy. I don't see no one else here. I'm friend of Jervis. Makes sense. You got that damn Jervis look. He poured himself a half-glass of amber liquid. You here to laugh too? Read my poems, say they ain't finished, ain't worth a damn. No, Theo stared. You're Elias Marshall. The man narrowed his eyes. Boy, how do you know my name? Theo's throat tightened. You wrote Torchlight verse. Published next year. Next year. Elias squinted. You drunk already? Theo let out a single bark of laughter that cracked the silence. Maybe. Elias stared a beat longer, then dropped into a chair. Well, mystery man, since you've materialized into my misery, might as well read them. Maybe you'll say something new. Theo picked up the folder. Inside, ink-scrawled lines, thick with metaphor, brief knotted into cadence. They weren't finished, but they carried a heat that felt alive. He cleared his throat. This one here, stove smoke. It's got the bones of something incredible. But here, he pointed. Don't finish this metaphor. Let it hang. Let it ache. Elias frowned. The line about Mama's laugh. Yes. Let her live in the smoke. Don't tie a bow on it. Elias leaned forward. What did you say your name was again, boy? Theo paused. Doesn't matter. You some kind of spirit or figment of my imagination. Maybe. They traded short, uneven chuckled bursts, the kind that tested the air, before the sound grew freer, tumbling between them. Elias poured him a drink. Theo accepted. They worked through the night. Your verbs are good, Theo said, but you over-explain the emotion. Elias bristled. People don't read between the lines. They do if the line hits right. At one point, Elias demanded, You sure you're not Elaine Locke in disguise? Theo snorted. Please. Locke doesn't quote Kendrick. Elias blinked. Who on earth is Kendrick? Never mind. Later, as they restructured a poem called Inheritance, Elias leaned back. When I was 8, I wrote about a dead bird. Mama said, You got heavy hands for a child. Been dragging that weight since. Theo nodded. Heavy hands leave marks. You talk like a professor. Guess I do. Elias laughed. You've got the look of a man stuck between places. Theo's eyes dropped to the ink stains on Elias's hands. His own fingers flat against the desk, unsure what to hold on to. I shouldn't be here, he said, then after a breath, though I've never felt more at home. He leaned in slightly, his next words quiet, as if asking permission. Can I give you one line? Only one, hi. Theo wrote, You cannot name the stars unless you've walked beneath their heat. His gaze lingered on the words. His lips parted, and released a breath so slow it seemed to carry something out of him. Damn. That kind of line could make a man immortal. Theo shrugged. It's yours. Hell it is, Elias said. A line like that don't belong to one man. But I'll keep it. He turned back to the page. Theo felt the jolt before it happened. The room shimmered. Elias's voice echoed. And the desk beneath his fingers transformed. He woke in the library. A radiator hissed. The poem lay open on the desk. The final one. The one that had always ended midline. Except now it didn't. You cannot name the stars, unless you've walked beneath their heat. So I walk. Still walking. Theo's throat caught. He flipped to the acknowledgements. There, in ink faded by time. To the man whose name I never caught, who found me in the hour I was ready to quit. Theo sat back. He checked the archive database. Elias Marshall, still one book, still no further publications, still nearly forgotten. But that line, the one about stars, had become part of the canon. Quoted in anthologies. Tattooed on artists. It had survived. Theo had given it. And history had kept it. Without him. He didn't tell anyone. Not his advisor. Not his friends. Not even his mother. He redrafted his proposal. Inherited voice, ghosts, lineage, and the unwritten contributors to the Harlem Renaissance. He quoted Elias liberally. And when he defended it months later, voice steady, heart full, he wore a pin in his lapel, a star, tiny and unremarkable to anyone else, One rainy afternoon, Theo found himself outside the old brownstone on Lenox, the one he'd first arrived in. It was a crumbling walk-up now, paint peeling, windows cracked. He stood for a moment in the doorway and listened. He didn't hear any music, nor keyboard clacking, only the rain working its way through the cracks where sound used to be. A boy passed on a scooter, blasting trap music. Theo smiled. He decided not to go inside. Instead, he walked down Lenox, coat collar up, heels tapping to the music in his head. He wasn't chasing after doorways or strange coincidences anymore. For now, he held on to what he'd found. He carried a past close enough to touch and a future opening ahead, his shoes striking wet pavement as he walked clear between the two.
History doesn't always remember the right names. Some voices echo forever, others vanish, even if they shaped everything that came after. This story reminds us that legacy isn't always about recognition. Sometimes it's about impact, about the words that survive, the ideas that travel, and the lives we change without ever being seen. Because even if the world forgets your name, your voice may still be speaking through someone else.